So the first question is, if you could bring back any scientist from the past and have a beer with that person, and maybe even have the chance to update them on, the last 50 years or so of innovations, depending on, how long ago they died, who you select, who would that be?
Oh, wow. Maybe possibly August Crow.
Mm-hmm.
In the lab, we talk about the Crow principle a lot, and which is, for any biological question, there's an organism or a set of organisms that are best suited for doing research in order to address that question. And, we talk about whales and, of course, their gigantism, and trying to understand limits of life and how animals operate at the upper extreme of body mass. And so obviously an awesome a set of study animals for that question.
Right. Did Crow ever do anything with whales?
He had this really cool thought piece in Nature, I think it was 1932, on blue whale physiology. And it was all based on just measurements from the whaling era.
Mm-hmm.
And just by thinking about length and weight, he made some really interesting calculations about blue whales and what life and physiology would be like at this scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some really interesting thoughts about that. And of course, we know a lot more about how whales work today, because now we have some really neat technologies that allow us to make direct measurements.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to bring August Crow out on our sea operations and watch us put tags on whales, and then show August Crow all the data that we have. And probably maybe the most appropriate would be our recent recordings of blue whale heart rates, and showing how those heartbeats during dives get down to 2 beats per minute. I bet August Crow would
to blow his mind.
Get a kick out
That's
of
a
that.
great and unique choice. We have not had that one named by any prior guest. So Darwin's the most popular, of course.
For sure, but I think given a choice, I might pick Crow for a beer for sure. I'd love to know what he thinks about biology's reliance on model organisms now. Like, not his model organism at all, but these things that are engineered in the lab for infinite manipulability, but not necessarily natural representativeness.
Yeah, there's a fun trade-off. I like to call it a fun trade-off rather than a controversial one of, if you're not working on a model organism, you're not doing real science. And I totally appreciate the model organisms and what they bring to the table, but also studying animals in their natural environment is really important, and I think really interesting.
Yeah, that's a big part of biology. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're never going to have these large animals in the tank, in the lab. And so we got to bring the physiological and biomechanics laboratories to the open ocean. It's a lot of fun. We learn a lot. We can't do manipulative experiments, but it's really interesting work, and I think...
That sounds like a cop-out to me, Jeremy. I mean, you could do CRISPR in a blue whale. It's no problem. CRISPR in a blue whale is no problem. You're just lazy.
Right.
But I also think there's a big space in there, for using what are traditionally model systems, but in wild populations, right? So
Right.
I think some of the coolest insect stuff is Drosophila in the wild, right? Because you can leverage all the tools to do these amazing things you couldn't do with any other species.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know Michael Dickinson is really getting into studying flies in the wild now, trying to understand how they navigate. And so if Michael Dickinson is now working on animals in the wild, you know where the field is going.
Yeah. We had a super fun conversation with him a couple of years ago about about insect flight.
Awesome.
So it was great.
He was a star.
Tell us one of your non-science hobbies.
Oh man, do I have any anymore?
Raising a 2-year-old.
2-year-old daughter is right.
I can tell you the hobbies I used to have.
That you'll get back to someday.
You're right.
Retirement.
When I moved back to California, I tried surfing and I pulled my hip on the first wave.
Yeah.
So I play a little music. I don't play as much as I used to, and I'm trying to play with my son. He gets a kick out of just watching me hold down the strings on the guitar, and then I let him play with the strings on the guitar. And playing music to me is I don't know, just one of the coolest things, one of the coolest ways we can connect a lot of the folks I work with, when we're on the boat at night after working on the water for like 12 to 15 hours, the best way to unwind is to play a couple of songs. And sometimes we have guitars with us. Sometimes we just find stuff around the boat to beat on. But it's fun, and we play with a lot of the crew, and people just come and go, and it's just it's a great community effort. It's a lot of fun, and I was in some terrible bands in high school and in college, and even if you're not very good, music is an incredible experience.
Yeah, for you, not for others necessarily.
So this music you're playing on the boat, I wonder if the whales can hear it, and if they can, what they think of it.
Yeah, probably through the hull. I bet you're right, actually. We this is maybe too much of an aside, but some of our work is trying to understand how military sonar affects whales. And so we put a tag on a whale and we expose it to controlled military sonar sounds at a lower level, but you can hear the pings of the sonar go through the hull, and if you're standing in a boat in air, you can hear the pings. So even with that impedance mismatch, you can still hear those sounds. So I bet if we're jamming on the boat, some of that does get into the water. And hopefully the whales enjoy it, or at least they're laughing at
You may have
us.
groupies you don't even know about.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.